Hey guys, I'm Ava, and let's talk about the economy. So today, I think this is probably the most important video I've ever filmed. You know, when we talk about Pokemon, a lot of times people ask, well, the economy is great right now, but what would happen in a bear market? And a lot of times, the first thing you'll hear is, well, look at 2020. Pokemon did so well. It outperformed. It outperformed the stock market. It was booming. It went great. So honestly, that's probably the best thing. That is not the case though. 2020 is not a good precedent for how Pokemon would perform in an actual recession. And we're going to be talking about that in this video, and that is for a lot of reasons. Some of them have to do with Pokemon itself, some of them have to do with the 2020 recession. So let's get right into it. As you can see behind me, I have a couple of charts that I lovingly hand drew. And also, if you're wondering about my qualifications for this video, as you can see, my handwriting is very bad, so I must be very good at math, and therefore I'm qualified to make this video. But down here we have 2020, and up here we have our gold standard. This is the 2008 financial crisis. So this is our beautiful benchmark, and this is kind of the new kid on the block. As you can see, 2020, we've got this sharp little line down here, very impressive. But by definition, 2020 is not actually a recession. I'm going to give you the exact definition of a recession. It does depend on the source you are looking at. It used to be defined by GDP, but now some sources say that GDP is not always reliable, so I will be giving you a more broad definition. As defined by the National Bureau of Economic Research, is a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. So as you can see here, you know, we've got that economic decline, there was unemployment, there were a lot of those things. But the key part is here, normally lasting more than a few months. As you can see, 2020 was a very short period. These are drawn on the same time scale, by the way, to help you guys visualize this. So as you can see, middle of 2019, we're at about 27K. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's not a perfect metric of the economy, but there is no perfect metric, so we're just gonna work with it. But as you can see, it's about 27K, and then we get up a little bit higher right around February of 2020, maybe a little bit earlier, and then by July 2021, we are back to where we started. So we have recovered from this in less than 6 months. And we hit all-time highs. You're constantly reading about record markets. It's insane what the market is doing right now. I'm not going to tell you the economy is healthy, but by definition, that would not count as a recession. It is a stock market crash, certainly, and it was terrible for the economy, and I'm not going to tell you that the economy is in a great state right now, but when you look at these metrics, it would not be considered a recession. And also, I know this line is very steep and scary. You know, it's like a 25% drop, but up here, looking at 2008, this is a 50% drop. 14K down to about 7K. And as you can see, that's over a prolonged period. The bear market from 2007 to 2009, because it is called the 2008 financial crisis, but it actually started in 2007 and went till 2009, was a 17-month bear run. So that means it was going down for 17 months. Here, it's going down for like 3 months or less before it recovers. I hope you can see the difference in significance between this. Just to illustrate, this right here is the 2020 market crash because of COVID. Whereas here to here is how long it took the market to recover after 2008. That's about 5 years. I know it felt like a really, really long time in 2020 because we were all stuck at home and it was just such an uncertain situation in the world, but it was not nearly as long as the 2008 recession. Now, I'm not going to tell you the 2008 recession is representative of all recessions. It is very, very severe, and of course, a bear market is a normal part of the market cycle, but this is not. Just a reminder that I am talking about the US economy today. Obviously, there is a recession that has lasted a lot longer in other countries throughout the world, but I am an American and I don't know as much about the international situation, so that is why I am not talking about it. And you will see the situation in 2020 labeled as a recession in the US sometimes. However, it ended in less than 2 months, so if you count it as a recession, it is a record for the shortest ever. I don't think that it should count though. Just so you know, part of why I'm harping so much on the length of the 2020 market crash is because a recession that is longer term can have many more impacts other than just the short-term economic. It can change longer-term consumer spending habits because of the psychological effects. And obviously 2020 had a lot of psychological effects on people, but they were different than what we would see in a longer-term recession. like in 2008. After 2008, you know, thrift culture really became a thing. It wasn't seen as anything cool really before then, but it became much more mainstream and much more popular, and now it's even, you know, you can go get high-end items. Now I hear you saying, well, Ava, that's quite a cop-out to say that, well, technically by definition, you know, 2020 was not a recession. And I agree. So we're going to be talking about all the reasons why 2020 was exceptional and why it cannot be used as a benchmark. Assuming we are considering a recession, let's say we're talking about an economic downturn, okay, more broadly, it is still not applicable. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that you can see more incredibly high quality content just like this. Thank you. First, let's talk about helicopter money. This, I think, is one of the most important factors. You know, a lot of people were struggling. A lot of people were unemployed or temporarily had to stop working. The people hit hardest were definitely blue-collar workers. And the US sent out a $2.2 trillion stimulus fund. So a lot of people, a lot of adults who pay their taxes, got $1,200 checks in the mail. And a lot of these people didn't necessarily need them, and they were able to use them on discretionary spending. So that is going to be things like clothes, Pokémon cards. And I mean, that was actually the whole goal. The goal of, you know, this would be considered helicopter money, which is where the government puts out a bunch of money to help immediately stimulate the economy by increasing consumer spending, which is what it did. Because think about 2020, you know, you're at home all day, you're not spending nearly as much on gas, travel, food, other things like that, you know, shampoo, conditioner, things to maintain your appearance, probably not spending as much on that. So you're spending it all on your trading cards, right? And again, the people who were most affected, as I said, were blue-collar workers. White-collar workers were not affected as much. Of course, this does depend on the individual, but a lot of times people were able to keep their jobs and continue working remotely. And in many cases, people were able to save much more money because they had those fewer expenses and they don't have to deal with commuting to work, and they have much more free time. So that means there is potentially going to be more people with disposable income during this period who are stuck at home with nothing better to do than spend their time looking at trading cards online. They're thinking about their hobbies. I know almost everyone had at least one COVID hobby. Personally, I know I was baking a lot more and I started sewing again, but you can see that a lot of people wanted to return to that nostalgia. You know, it is such a happy time thinking about your childhood when you were playing Pokemon games, collecting the cards. It's so much better than thinking about the real world where there is a pandemic going on, and it's a natural escape for so many people, myself included. So I hope you can see why that is not the norm in a recession. There aren't going to be as many people with this additional disposable income, and also this anomaly of a massive run after. Normally, the recovery from a bear market is much slower. Normally, what you are much more likely to see is a massive downturn very suddenly, and then a slow recovery, which is much more like what you see in the 2008 recession. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And again, there were other things going on. You know, Logan Paul, I'm personally not sure how much he contributed to the Pokemon market boom in the long run. A lot of people say he is a major cause. But again, it's all these things that happened at the same time that created a perfect storm. And then we had the 25th anniversary, which kept the hype going. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there were moratoriums on rent evictions. So I think that, you know, this was probably a good practice. But it did mean that a lot of people, you know, were using that money for discretionary spending when they shouldn't be. I think we've all read some stories about that. And, you know, those went on longer than they were initially supposed to. In a lot of states, they were extended. So that does explain, in part, why a lot of people were spending more on luxury goods than they would in a typical, you know, difficult economic situation. But all these people stuck at home, whether they're working or not, mean more eyes on every eBay listing, every auction, every TCG player listing, everything. And that means there's more eyes on it and more money floating around. And it just started snowballing. You know, your parents or grandparents might have read in the news, oh my god, your Pokemon collection might be worth some money. I know my mom showed me a few of those articles, and people became convinced they were sitting on a pile of gold. You know, those listings where you could get a great deal on a lot of cards on eBay, they started to disappear. Everyone was snapping up whatever they could. Prices went absolutely crazy. We've seen that corrected recently. And hopefully, you know, we've bottomed out in the Pokemon market. But that does remain to be seen. We are in a very, very precarious situation in the world right now. I don't think I need to explain that to you guys. I don't want to tell you that, you know, Pokemon's gonna crash, Nintendo's going out of business if there's ever a recession or a, you know, economic downturn of any sort. But I want you to be mindful that if you're talking about how Pokemon will perform in a recession, 2020 is not a good precedent. This is really a prequel for a longer video I want to make talking about all the possible outcomes if there was a recession and how Pokemon would perform during and after. But for today, I really wanted to get this out there because I think it's important considering the state of the world we're in, and I just want everyone to be mindful that there is always risk. If someone tells you there is a risk-free investment, run for the hills because they are lying to you. The cause of the economic downturn plays a big factor in how the economy reacts and how consumers react, and also it really depends what products we're talking about. Are we talking about singles, sealed product, high-end, low-end? What are we talking about? It really does depend, and there's a lot of great research out there. Not really much about Pokemon, but I think if we are creative, we will actually be able to make some more, rational judgments that are based on evidence rather than just speculation, because I think that it's always important to base your assessments in the evidence and the data. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, comment down below whether you think Pokemon will outperform in a recession, whether you think it is recession proof, whether that's based off of 2020 or not. Please let me know, I'm very interested. And if you guys want to support my channel, please join my Patreon, which will be linked in a pinned comment down below. Or if you want to support my channel in a way that is free to you, you can click either my eBay or Amazon affiliate links down in the description. They do not cost you anything, but I get a small percentage of the sale when you purchase after clicking my link, which would be very, very helpful for the channel so that I can afford more paper and markers to make high quality content like this, and maybe even one day a whiteboard. That's the dream. But do I look like somebody who can afford a whiteboard? I don't think so. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.